Hi guys, thank you for joining the hackathon today. So I believe many of you will pursue a career in information technologies. Am I right?
Yes.
And maybe who of you target explicitly programming? Who of you want to become a programmer or already a programmer? Just you.
The rest of the guys already have been on the hackathon, and I think that already has something.
So yeah. Today I wanted to give you some insights about how we work in as the group IT, explicitly on the project George, which is online banking of Slovenska Sporiteljna. And yeah, my name is Nick. I'm originally from Latvia. I work as a web developer in the group IT, George project, and I work in payments team. My main responsibilities is to ensure that the money are delivered from A to B for our customers. And besides this responsibility, I also try to serve our developers to help them get better at work, so we all are effective. So again, the George, who doesn't know of you, it's in digital banking, online banking of Slovenska Sporiteljna, where people are managing their finances. And so our job as a programmers is to ensure that they can manage their finances smooth and actually help them to do that. So our journey within our development team started with several years ago when the website, the George, became so huge that it became very hard to maintain it. Actually, at the moment, we have 500,000 lines of code project, which is hard to manage altogether. And last year, January, we decided to act on that problem, that it's hard to maintain it, and we started to formulate what are the issues we face. And the problem we found out is that it's hard to add new features safely in George, because when you add something in such a huge project, then there are side effects that breaks another part. And this was a huge problem that we had back then. It's not easy to write tests, and basically if you cannot test the software that you are trying to program, this means that software is not safe from perspective of quality. And we wanted to fix it and identify this as a problem. So it's hard to maintain such a huge website and the code base. And since with such a size of the code base, it's hard to scale the team, because the new developers who wants to help us and contribute, they have to learn so much information before they can really create a value and start really programming. And this was a problem for them, because we were onboarding more and more people to help us, but we were not able to get value from them, because we were required to train them a lot before actually starting to do it. So George, a software at a huge scale, single page application. So there are no refreshes from the page to page, but the information is fetched through the API and the views are just changing, with a lot of features and basically with a lot of nuances. 500,000 lines of code, 30 developers maintain that. So I want to give more information about complexity and use metaphor of my colleague Samuel. Imagine a book, an adventure book. It's being written by multiple authors at once. 10 chapters of this book is already written. And new chapters, many new chapters, are work in progress by multiple authors. And people, actually the readers of this book, they read the book in real time, while some pieces are already written and some are being written. So now imagine a new requirement comes from book editor. The requirement is introduce a new character starting from chapter 5. As you might guess, it's a giant challenge for authors to incorporate new character into such a book that is ongoing. You have to change the chapters which are already written to adjust a new character that will be in. And you have to replan the future chapter that will be written or is being written at the moment to also align with a new character introduction. So similar problems we face with George because our project is so huge, and we try to address these kind of problems at scale every day. So it's a big challenge to work here. To add a new feature to George, we have to comply with a lot of high quality standards. For example, we shall to ensure test coverage because we want the software is actually tested and therefore high quality. We want to ensure that the business logic of the software works correctly. Where we want to track user interaction so we can learn how they use the software and then we can improve some parts of the software. Or we have to make the software responsive whether you open the George online banking on mobile or iPad or on your computer. The thing has to be accessible. We also try to think about security in the sense of we don't want to be hacked, so this developer shall take in mind about this. We try to write automated tests because we believe that could be the future of testing in IT industry. A lot of standards, a lot of quality standards to do to just introduce one new feature into such a huge project. A lot of things to consider. So when we came up to a list of these issues that we have and how to go with them, we thought about a kind of, we need a new way of working to tackle them because just programming is not enough. We wanted to create something that would help address all this complexity at once. And we thought to build an environment that would help us to tackle the challenges. So we sat together and thought how this new way of working could look like. So it could address all this complexity. And we thought to include a daily routine to learn and share, and to learn every day, to share things and support each other. We thought that this new way of working shall include empathy, especially writing code. By empathy writing code, I mean when you write a code as a developer, you have to think not only about your solution, but also about how other developers in the future will look at this code, try to read and figure out what it does. So it's readable, it's understandable, and any other developer of your team can take over after you and continue. So it's very different how you approach a huge project with a small project where you don't have to think too much about other people taking care of what you program. We wanted that this new way of working actually has feedback loop so we could reflect whether we are going in the right direction or no with all this complexity that we have. Or we wanted that there is a capability in this project to scale the team. So when a new colleague joins, expert or junior, we want that the new colleague can contribute much faster. So it doesn't have to learn thousands of tools or nuances that we have. So well, nicely we came up with such a list, but it's just a list on the paper. We thought about this, but how to make it a reality, this new way of working, that was a challenge for us. So we started to build an internal developers community. And our community contains at the moment of 6 elements. Let me dive into each of these elements and give you some information. The first element is about discussion and knowledge sharing. For example, we form a small groups of people from developers and try to discuss things together this way. We have a clean code working group that is concentrated on a kind of consistency principles when you write or the software code, where this group discusses also best programming practices and tries to then share it to the whole George developers team. Or we have a TypeScript working group as well. TypeScript is a new programming language that we recently introduced, and there are people who try to adapt this new programming language within our project, within our code base. Or we have regular meetings with our designers to align on the colors of the fonts, of the graphical interface of our software, and this helps us align with them. Or we try to actually sketch solutions on the whiteboard together, where you take a role as an architect and try to come up with a solution on the whiteboard before it will be implemented. This helps us to brainstorm before we actually put hands on real programming. In my experience last year, we had a whiteboard architecture planning on a payments form in George, the main feature of online banking, because we wanted to rebuild it, and so we sketched everything on the whiteboard. We thought about all the flows, we involved people to discuss, and so on. Then we came up to the solution, and afterwards we spent some months to program it, and now it's in production and actually in 4 countries that George is used in. Then sometimes we form a bigger groups of people, of developers, and for example, every year we have a team offsite where all the developers are taken off from the office somewhere to the wild to discuss a core architecture part of such a big project. We could look at our weak parts of the project, what to improve within a year, or a new architecture part that we want to introduce, and so on. Every week we have a developers meeting where our lead developer shares information with everyone how we are aligned with the vision of Erste Group International and the vision of George projects at all. And it helps developer to be always focused not only just on their tasks, but also know where the team, the global company goes in, and remember all this. Every now and then we have a kind of meetups, internal meetups, where we learn and eat together, and normally we turn on there a video from some celebrity speaker that helps us to learn about Agile. Agile is a way of working in IT industry at the moment. So we watch the video on such a meetups, and then moderators of that meetup organizes for us a list of questions, which helps us to discuss and see how we can apply Agile practices to our environment, to our case. A lot of knowledge happens, knowledge sharing happens within developers community. Sometimes, as I said, we involve designers there, sometimes we involve our technical leaders or other people. And this helps developers actually to be always up with the information. So the next element of our community is about practice. So we have a lot of workshops and try to learn on these workshops, try to share knowledge about different stuff related to programming, related to George. We do a lot of peer programming. Peer programming is when an expert, let's say, join a less experienced developer, and they try together on one screen to program a solution. And this helps a lot to pass knowledge from one person to another person through this developers community. Or we do some trainings related to writing automated tests. As I said, we think automated tests is the future of testing software, and we want to also be up with this. Every second week we have a Hack Day. A Hack Day is an event where developers are allowed to build actually what they want or improve George in a way they want. So it's not related to your daily tasks or something, but really you can invent something you want for George. In fact, this is how Gmail in Google grew. They call it these Hack Days in Google's 20%, if you ever heard about this concept, where Google gives 20% of time for their employees to do whatever they want. And this is exactly how Gmail was built initially. So many practical activities happen not only in Google, but also here in Erste Group International. We try to follow big brand companies and try to make sure we compete in a level of how we train developers, how we treat developers, and so on. So the next very important element of our internal developers community is that we review each other's work. If somebody created a code, there are plenty of other developers who will look at this code and try to suggest improvement of that code, try to see whether this code is aligned with some consistency principle that we could have. So try to point out where the code is maybe not readable, not understandable, so the author of the initial code could reflect on this and improve the code before it goes to production. And together we know that together as a group we know more than any one of us individually, and this reviewing each other work or taking care of each other work actually help us to come up with a more quality source code and more quality solutions at the end. Then we also have small trainings for empathy, because when you review somebody's code, it's kind of sensitive topic. You know, you review something that was created by another person. So if you are not polite talking about the bad solutions, let's say, or good solutions, you might get in trouble. So during these reviews, we actually train empathy skills. I think these skills is very, very important to make a successful collaboration within team. And the next element of our community is actually about consistency principles, because such a project, as I said, is 500,000 of lines of code, is very hard to maintain. And since we are using TypeScript and JavaScript, these are very flexible languages. Without these languages, you can actually use to do stuff in 10 different ways, and it will work. You know, therefore they are so flexible. So we know we don't want to, let's say, enable our developers to write any kind of solution into the code base, because we want that the solutions are consistent. The solutions are the same and familiar to other people who haven't developed them. So other people can take over, can look, can understand, figure out whatever, but we want consistency. And so we try to sit together with the guys, developer, and discuss what kind of consistency principles we could have, and then apply this when we write a code. So the code is not kind of unique or custom, but it looks more familiar because there is some consistency principle pattern applied, let's say, or design pattern applied instead of custom implementation that the developer could put. And these consistency principles, as I said, makes the code familiar to everyone initially. And we try to make this familiarity a part of our DNA in George developers. We know that this way it will be much easier to maintain such a big project if you open a file with programming code that looks familiar, and you can easily figure out what the code does beyond. So the next element, the fifth element of our community is one of our favorite. It's about hiring and onboarding. So when we interview a new candidate, multiple developers, existing developers from our team join the interview and get to know the candidate, even learn from the candidate sometimes when the candidate is very experienced developer, and try to work together for a couple of hours together with the candidate during the interview. And this helps to identify whether there is connection or no, because in such a big team, in such a big project, the connection is also very important. The expertise are obviously important too, but the connection that you build with a person is also having a priority. And when the developer joins the team, we have advanced onboarding process. The first thing is that new developer gets assigned a current experienced developer as a buddy that leads through the office, leads through the processes, how we work and so, and explain that. But beyond this, helping the new developer to understand the whole thing, how the processes works, how the development works, we immediately assign a lot of technical tasks to a new developer. And these tasks we call a kind of fail fast, learn fast mode, because we try to ask to do the developer tasks that will get the new developer out of comfort zone. We believe that getting out of comfort zone initially will create a kind of conditions that a new developer will learn dramatically fast, you know. And so these tasks include, for example, test-driven developer, or we try to ask the new developer to start fixing bugs right away without even knowing our consistency principles, without knowing our best practices, without knowing anything that is common to our particular environment. Because we believe that as soon as developer pushes new code in, then the community, by reviewing this code, will point out where to learn, what to know, what to change, what to improve, and this way we also build further on the connection with these developers, with other developers. Then there are management persons who, as the group IT, who tries to introduce us to the vision, the new developer to the vision and to the processes, and we even have an empathy training for new people who join. This helps and gives tips how to make friends at work, kind of soft skills training. So the last element of the community is about support. It's about learning resources. As the group IT supports us developers by paying our classes, workshops, or any trainings online or offsite or somewhere else. As the group IT, the company buys the books for us so we can learn from books or whatever, or send us to conferences to get some inspiration from the worldwide community of developers, and then bring this inspiration in-house, you know. Actually, any necessary resources as the group IT International helps us to get in favor of our studies and learning. The company values our willing towards knowledge and cares and supports us. Our community is vibrant, elements interconnect with each other very much. This way we iterate, this way we receive feedback from each other, this way we also challenge each other. Knowledge is passed back and forth using these all elements throughout the community, and all these activities that we have within this community, they help us to improve and grow professionally. So there are many activities, as I mentioned, happening within the community, but to keep up, you don't have to participate in all of them. It's really by interest. For example, some of our geeks find their way around conferences and practices more. Or people who are more introverts, we have many of such developers, they like to review the code from their computer, to review other developers' code, I mean. Or they maybe like to participate in small discussion groups, or learn via online classes the company provides. Or, for example, I'm a clean code enthusiast, so I like to discuss best programming practices. I like to come up with consistency principles, and they make everyone aware about this, so teammates know a new principle that we put in, or a new programming pattern that we want to reuse in different parts of the application as software. Or people with a duty to scale the team, they are around hiring, onboarding, or mentoring. So since knowledge is flying all around the community, everyone learns and benefits from it dramatically. So this kind of environment of all these elements, the community, we call it a learning machine, where everyone actually learns automagically because being in this environment. And important thing that there is no government and no politics involved in this. Developers are fully protected from the government and from politics. Decision power is on every team of the member. Let me elaborate that with some example from our life. For example, there is a group of people, the society, we, in Bratislava or in Vienna or anywhere else, which being, let's say, organized by another persons who are politicians, and they try to put on us many decisions, and really these decisions they put on us affect actually us, but normally don't affect them. For example, when politicians decide to raise the price for public transport, but they don't use public transport, you know, they think we will be fine, but we are probably not, you know. So in George here in our company, and as the group IT, we change it completely. And we change it that we give a decision power to experts of our developers within the team. Moreover, we give a decision power to everyone within the team. So everyone can actually challenge the decision or challenge a particular principle. So we change it and discuss it. So the decision power is on every member of the team. And this differentiates from many other companies and many other setups. we are able to challenge each other every time. We are able to come up to the best solutions possible. So the last part that we figure out that all this community, all this environment that we created and we are working within, it actually leads us to systematic success. And systematic success could be that we deliver a software that works. The code that we write now is very easy to test, and this ensures the quality on the long run. Scaling developers' team is no problem anymore because the developer doesn't have to learn that much, because the code is familiar or using the patterns that are common for developers in general. Or developers within this community, with this environment, they learn every day and grow professionally. And actually that's environment that people love. We wanted to look at that. Why I call it that people love this environment. But imagine people in their free time from work, they build projects that improve the way of working here. So now it seems they are so inspired by how we work and what we do here, so they spend their free time also to do some side projects which improves our lives in there. So this kind of creative environment, a learning machine, at the end, it helps everyone to get better. That's our goal, and we try to achieve that. Our developers, they grow professionally, or our customers, they improve financial life. And so our company, as the Group IT International, serves the society by creating a positive impact. Everyone wins. So my name is Nick. I'm a web developer. On Facebook, I share insights about how we work in George, digital banking team of Erste Group IT International. If that's something interesting to you, go and follow me. Good luck pursuing your career in information technologies. Hopefully, if some of you wants to become a programmer in the future, we will work together one day. Thank you very much for being here at the hackathon today. That's it.